and it's a winning, never to lose. When we talk about vacation, though, it's always a cruise. It's Tony and Tommy with a TNT schmooze. Cruise Talk Weekly, and we lighten the fuse.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Cruise Talk Weekly. I'm Tommy.
And I am Tony, and we're here to talk about everything going on in cruising. Tommy, man, you just came back from a whirlwind cruise that included a last-minute booking, that included a great itinerary, that included your cruise ship breaking down. I guess let's start at the beginning. You teased this on the last episode of Cruise Talk Weekly saying, hey, you were trying to work some sort of deal where you could get on the Carnival Horizon. And then out of the blue, you text me and say, hey, I just got on it. But your story is almost unbelievable. It's kind of almost like that Artemis rocket launch. I'm looking at the pictures, but there's naysayers out there saying that it's fake. I don't believe it's fake. But your story was a little bit like that. You're like, hey, I found out I was going on a cruise at noon. I left my house at 1. I was on the cruise ship at 2 o'clock. How does that even happen? How did it happen?
Yeah, I didn't know it could happen, and I'll say, like, I'm known sometimes for cutting it close, and I'm kind of comfortable living in that space, but this was a little bit crazy even for me. I had mentioned last week, as you said, or last time we spoke, I was saying that there was this cruise I had my eye on, and it was a very attractive cruise at a very attractive rate, so I was all over it, and I was trying to work the back channels and try to, my little tricks that I know how to do to get on this thing. None of them were working, Tony. It wasn't working. This $250 Carnival cruise that was going to be an 8-day ABC cruise. So finally, I keep trying. Now we're 2 days before the cruise. Now it's sending me a different message. Sorry, you're too close to the booking. If you want to book this cruise, you got to call. So I did call. They said, yes. Don't you get it? The cruise is sold out. You can't get on this sailing. That rate keeps popping up because people are, window shopping or whatever it was. So it became apparent to me, or it was communicated to me, that I could get put on this wait list. I could put a $50 deposit down and get on a wait list. It was really all for naught, they were saying, but you could try. So I did. I said, verify. I get the $50 back, right? And they said, yeah, no problem. So I got on the wait list, put the $50 deposit, didn't hear anything from anyone as expected. Day of the cruise, it's Saturday. I wake up kind of like, I worked late Friday night. So I was like, getting a late start. It was maybe 11:30 in the morning. So I'm like, well, let me check and see if I can get my deposit back. I call up and they say, Mr. Casabona, you're sailing today. And I'm like, no, I'm not sailing today. I put the deposit down. They go, oh, you're right. That was a deposit. Okay, yeah. No, we can get that back to you, but would you like me to see if there's any rooms available? I'm like, sure, but no, why wouldn't I have been called if there were rooms available? So, well, let's just take a look. Well, yes, we do have a room that's available. $1,400 interior cabin. You can get on this sailing if you want. Congratulations. I'm like, oh, no, that wasn't the deal. It was a casino deal. Like, well, I'll have to re-release the room, and I'll have to put you on the phone with the casino department. Anyway, Tony, I was on the phone for probably about a half hour, a little bit more than that, trying to go back and forth. But it turns out that at 12:15 p.m. on a cruise that was leaving at 2:30, I paid the balance of $250, was able to race to Miami. I got on the ship. They said you can absolutely not board after 2:30. I made it at 2:29, and we were on our way. And you were one of the first people I called.
So it's still so fantastical to me. So people were already on the Lido eating a guy's burger for that cruise before you knew that you were going on that cruise.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it was insane to me. And I was calling and I was trying to work some back channels at the port, seeing if, can I get some consideration? I just booked this cruise now. They were very nice. They was like, we can't guarantee it. We'll make sure they know. They do know you're on your way. So if there's anything they can do, they know you're trying to get there. But they can't guarantee that you'll be able to leave past 2:30. And Tony, it had been a while. We do a cruise talk show here, and I got my own called the Always Be Booked podcast as well. And for somebody who has a couple of cruise shows, I hadn't been cruising as often as I'd like. I was really, really excited that I can get this one in. Well, I mean, in an ABC, the Bonaire. I had never been to Bonaire. It was amazing. Oh, Bonaire. How do you say it? Bonaire?
I say Bonaire. I don't know. I don't know what the correct way to say it. I'm fascinated by this whole thing. So again, you probably weren't packed, right? So was it just a frantic scramble to say how long was the cruise? 7 days?
8 days.
8 days. So a frantic scramble to say, how can I survive on 8 days? Like, were you going through the laundry scenarios on the ship and all that when you were grabbing your stuff?
All of it. I just grabbed anything from my closet that looked like it had some sort of a tropical pattern on it, and then grabbed a bunch of underwear, a bunch of socks, sneakers, flip-flops, undershirts, and some toiletries, of half of which I didn't have. I had to buy. There was no time for anything. I had to kind of dart out of there quickly. And this was great, Tony. I'm at my condo complex. I get in the car, jam the suitcase into the front passenger side, and I drive. I get halfway down the block, and I don't even have to tell you what I forgot. Everybody can
passport.
Say it.
I was just sitting there wondering.
Everybody can say it together. And can you imagine, Tony, if I was 10 minutes into that ride and remembered it, it would have been over. Yeah. But I did happen to remember it when I was halfway down the block, was able to whip around, pick it up, and on my way down I-95. And I'll tell you, shout out to my friends, Beatrix and the lovely Kay. They told me, don't even look back, express lane. Stay on the left, get in that express lane. If I did not get in that express lane, and it was the music festival too, the EDC music festival as well. So it was a comedy of obstacles that were in the way. But boy, when that left foot crossed that threshold, past that gangway, that was a really good feeling.
Man,
of course,
almost immediate.
I had a
bunch
of
immediate pure cruise bliss, right?
Immediate pure cruise bliss. I had a bunch of things to say on the cruise, and people are saying, "Oh, you're complaining about this cruise. You wanted to get on it so bad, and you got such a good deal." Guys, that's the weird thing. Do you ever find that, Tony, when like people think you're complaining? You're not necessarily complaining. You're providing commentary on what you're seeing in general. I mean, how many times am I going to say over and over again, I am so happy to be here. I'm having the best time in the world. Carnival, I'm absolutely in love with all of it, everything they're doing. But Carnival's going to be Carnival, and this cruise was not without some wacky stuff. If you want to talk about that here, we could do that, or I'll probably go into a little bit more detail on Always Be Booked, but
I definitely want to ask some of those questions. The main question that's sitting in my head, did you get any insight as to how you can clear manifest so quickly? That's the only thing I couldn't figure out. My assumption was always that there's no way you're getting on a cruise if they haven't had time to process through your information and get you on that manifest and stuff. I'm so shocked that you could do it same day. Did anybody tell you anything about that, or do you know how that works or anything?
I wondered the same thing, Tony. Yeah. And I've actually been in New York City maybe 7, 8 years ago. I was ready to go on a cruise a day before, and they had space on the cruise, and I had my money out and I had my card out, and they said, no, the manifest has shut down. I'm guessing it's something COVID change up. I mean, maybe some sort of, changes. How a lot of changes happened during COVID. And I think maybe some of that stuff opened up. But I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. I did not know that I could even do that. I mean, I was surprised. I did a similar thing on Bahama, on Margaritaville at Sea, noon for a 2-day cruise, and I was on by 3 p.m. And I was wondering that too. Like the manifest, I thought was an ironclad thing that they had to kind of check out a little bit at least, right?
That's what I thought. Maybe because you've cruised with Carnival before, so obviously all of your information's been vetted out before. So maybe you're a known entity, and that's why it's easier. You're not unknown. But yeah, I think I was still on my cruise at the time on the Luna, and I just remember reading that text going like, "You're punking me, man. You no way." But then I started seeing pictures of you on the cruise ship, and I was like, "Look at that guy, man. He was able to get on." I was so excited for you. And then you got to go to some of the best places in the world, like you said, the ABC Islands. Let's start with the B. I've never been to the B either. Bonaire. Does that really round out the trio? I mean, now do you feel like you can say something? Because I'm always saying the same thing, right? I'm always like, people say, hey, you been to the ABC Islands? I'm like, I've been to A and I've been to C, but I've never been to B. At least now you can like emphatically go, yes, I've been to the ABC Islands. Does B round it out?
B does round it out, and B was a pleasant surprise. I was so pumped to be able to get to the B. Bonaire, and I gotta say, like, I asked my group for some suggestions. They nailed it. They said, you could either get, I think I heard the thing to do there, a lot of people like to do, is get a golf cart. Seems like a fun area to kind of get caught around with. But then someone said, go to where did I go? I went to Sebastian Beach Club. That's where I went. I went all the way to the other side of the island at this really cool beach club. Bucket of Corona for $25 for 6 of them. And then I had a whole show. I was sitting in the shade, hanging out, having some Corona, watching the world go by. And then there was this, it was almost like they weren't there for entertainment. They were entertaining as hell. These parasailers, they just were, there was a DJ there, and you are like right up against the water. It was awesome. And then I came back, and then I had no idea. I'll go out on a limb for those of you. I know you don't partake as much, Tony, but for those out there that do, it is up there. And I didn't figure out what number I'm going to give it yet, but it is among the best inner kind of walk off the ship port cities to have some drinks at, for sure. It is a drinking port for sure. And it's just got one sunset, beautiful tiki bar after another. It's got a cool little urban infrastructure. And somebody told me in the group, and they nailed this as well, it's like Aruba, but it's not. I mean, that's the order. Aruba is like almost like, some of the cities, Tampa, Boca Raton. It's got actual, real multiple lane traffic lights, infrastructure cities. Curacao, a little bit less than. Bonaire, while still bustling and fun, really, you feel like you're somewhere else. You feel like it's got a lot less commercial, a lot less, what would you say, hustle and bustle, but yet still plenty to do. I don't know if that makes sense, but I loved it. It was awesome.
I saw you at one of my favorite places in Curacao on the floating bridge. And I do feel like Curacao has a definite European flavor to it, right? You can definitely feel the Dutch influence there. What was the sense in Bonaire? I'm not even sure what their history is. Who colonized them, and is there any of that culture, the mixing of that culture there?
Yeah, I if I'm not mistaken, it's Dutch as well. Yeah, I think it's Dutch too. But again, it just didn't necessarily have it didn't have as much of the signage, as much of the merchants hustling, as much as the chain places that you see. Even in, when you're on Curacao, you even see, you see a, what is it? It's like a Pizza Hut. You'll see you'll see a Subway right there.
Yeah.
This beautiful fort that was built in the 1400s that defended. Meanwhile, they jam a Subway right into it, and Subway's carved into it.
That's
but
right.
I loved it, Tony. We're still kind of walking on sunshine, just like that. That I got a chance to do it. Of course, the worst thing is, being on the way back, and then you alluded to, we had a little bit of. We barely on the ship even discussed it. It wasn't really an issue. Listen, I'm going to say this here. I'm not trying to cross promote, but yeah, the Carnival is. So I have such a fond place in my heart for Carnival. I love it and what they do, but yeah, Carnival's going to challenge your patience sometimes. They are going to challenge your patience sometimes. And for me, just being very, very thankful and grateful, it wasn't much of a challenge for me, but it was phenomenal. But as you alluded to before, on the way back, we did hear an announcement and we did get a letter.
Yeah. So, it's, I guess it's so funny with that Vista class. I really do love the design of that class, but they've been plagued. All 3 of those ships have been plagued. The Vista, the Panorama, the Horizon. They've all been plagued with Asiapod issues, engine issues, propulsion issues, and you're the latest. Your cruise is the latest to fall victim to that. When did you know something was wrong? Well, let me ask you this. So it was an 8-day cruise. Was ABC, were those the only 3 port stops, or did they throw you a bone and take you to like a private island, or anything? Just those 3 stops? So
No,
did you make? Yeah, you make it through all those stops, and then the ship breaks down a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was at the very end. So that was the thing. It was we were on our second. So it was we call it a 2-day sandwich. You know what I mean? 2 sea days, 3 port days, 2 sea days, then back to port. 2-day sandwich. And on the first day of the final 2 days of the sandwich, late night, I got some pizza, as one does, and I'm a regular at the pizza place late night. So I'm sitting there and I'm just eating, and there was a vibration. And I'll tell you that it's not hard to tell that it was elongated too. And I said, this not supposed to feel like this. Like, I'm on deck 10 and there is a rumble beneath me that I know that's not supposed to, there were a couple of drinks. Was I going to worry about it? No, I'm sure we were fine. We're all going to be in this thing. Boat's not going to sink. No problem. But there was a extended rumble that I said to myself, that's not really, I could tell that's not supposed to be that way. Do I know that that was related? No, not a mechanic. But sure enough, captain gets on about noon the next day and said, you'll notice we've been traveling a little bit slower. There's been some engine issues, the mechanical issues, and we will be arriving late in port. And that's the one negative I will say, Tony. While it was no problem, usually you're getting into port and, the sun's coming up. We were getting into port and it was 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. And I will say that, there was challenges, of course, and we know there were issues, but that debark, while you're in a debark like that, you're questioning, am I going to do this again? Am I ever going to one of these?
It was that bad.
It was that bad. It was that bad, really. And you would think, like, you want to say, what happens is because, they tell you to show up early, it's like, we're going to move everything back. That's what they say. But once they try to move everything back, okay, now I'm platinum, so you can go to the liquid lounge at 8:45 and you'll be one of the and everything will just get pushed back. That's not the way it works, because those red and blue cards are going to rush the liquid lounge, and the people with their cute little signs, they're no match for the mob. And it was a good 2 hours and 15 minutes of just going through that, Snake City situation.
Really? 2 hours to get off the ship?
Yeah.
Oh, that is the worst. The problem when there's challenges with debarkation is you're already like, I don't know if you're like me, but when we wake up on debarkation day, we get up early and we just want to get off as quick as possible. I do know people that are like, oh, I like to go have one last breakfast. And not me, man. I am completely spent. I'm like, okay, my cruise is over. I do not want to, because the last thing I want to do is stand in a line for 2 hours while I try to get off the ship. And man, I've been in that situation. I can feel you. And then, there's been a lot of traffic in Miami. So you're probably standing in line going, well, what am I expecting when I get out there? At least you had your car there. I do like to park at the cruise port, because then you can just walk right off and get into your car. But wow, that's rough. It's interesting. You mentioned it earlier. I did listen to a couple of your Patreon episodes, the Always Be Booked cruising podcast on the Patreon side. And you talked about some of the challenges with Carnival. It's a weird situation that we're in, because a lot of times hope springs eternal for me. I fall in love almost every time I go on a cruise, and I'm just happy to be there. And so when I come back off and people are like, what did you hate about it? I really have to work hard to do it. And sometimes I catch a little flack because I'm not critical enough. But then you make the point that sometimes when you're critical, and I've experienced it too, people are mad at that. So it's kind of a no-win situation. You're too positive, you're in the pocket of the cruise line, or you're too negative. You should be happy that you're cruising. It's a thankless job that we commentators have, but it's a great job, and I completely love it. But look, I listened to your Patreon where basically you said the buffet there on the Horizon was trash. That has been a thing recently on Carnival. I've been underwhelmed by many a Carnival buffet, even from the oldest ships to the newest ships. What's the conspiracy theory here? Let's flat Earth, space ain't real this thing. What's the conspiracy? Do you think Carnival is trashing their own buffet for some ulterior motive to drive you to a less expensive guy's burger or more expensive specialty dining? What do you think's going on?
I think it's just as simple as that they can get away with it. You know what I mean? They can get away with it, and people are still booking. I mean, I remember the Carnival buffets when I first started doing Carnival in the early 2000 teens. It was just so much choice. I mean, the difference between Carnival's buffet and the Windjammer is far and away, like I said, but it's not going to necessarily, like when I talk like that, people say, oh, so you like Royal Caribbean? But no, I mean, the buffet food is not necessarily food in general. I would say I love a nice, a good meal, but when I'm on a ship that may not be A1 for me as far as prioritization, but I can't really say that I think they're trying to drive people to the specialty restaurants, even though they may be. Their specialty restaurants are not like out of this world besides the steakhouse. And I just think that they're, it's along the lines of just cuts. People are going to go and people are going to book anyway. I mean, the buffet was packed. I mean, you couldn't necessarily get a seat. People were still eating at the buffet. But like I said, it was, two staging areas where the buffet was, and each of those two staging areas had 4, what would you call them, buffet stations.
Yeah.
So then if you're working out the math here, each of those 4 buffet stations had 2 sides on each one, and they mirrored both sides of so there's basically 6 items for 48 separate or 96, whatever it is. So it's the 2. They had 6 things at any given time. Now, I noticed towards the end of the cruise, after I had made that podcast, that it did kind of change up a little bit, and they were kind of doing some different things in the 2 staging areas. But listen, what are you going to do? There was always something that was edible for me, and I enjoyed it. And then you also have the Guy's Burger. You also have the pizza. And if you want specialty dining, you could do that. Of course, a Cafe Iguana. What is it? Iguana Cantina.
Yep.
I noticed too that Blue Iguana. Yeah, they're doing some. They're upsizing there too. They're doing wings there at the Blue Iguana.
The Blue Iguana. Yeah, for a charge, so for a fee, right? Yeah,
for a fee you could do wings, and for the pizza, they have special Korean barbecue pizza that you can pay for at the pizza as well. So even at the the free grab and go spots, they're looking for their little ways to upcharge, which I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have any problems with that. You know what I have a problem with? When I go to take a shower and there's no shower head at all in the shower.
Oh yeah, you had that experience, right? No, like the very first time you stepped in the shower, there was no shower head. Is that what we're saying?
Not the very first time. There was another issue with the shower that we don't. It's a little bit of a separate issue. We won't have to go over it. But on Aruba Day, I was coming back for a halftime. I was out early. I came back, was going to take a shower midday. There was no shower head. And when I called to ask why there's no shower head.
No shower head, no explanation?
Yeah, no. The response was, yes, we're sanitizing them. Can you give me 45 minutes? And I said, 45 minutes? Now, he was a nice guy. He was like, it wasn't 45 minutes because he heard the tone of my voice, but I was like, 45 minutes? I can't go anywhere for 45 minutes because he's like, and you know what his response was? Mr. Thomas, this is for your benefit.
So the wild thing is you came back to no shower head and there was no explanation. So you just had to wonder for a second what happened to the shower head.
Yes.
Like somebody had stolen it or something. Yeah. I mean, it sounds routine the way that you're saying it though. Like maybe they have I think you may have surprised them on your return. They looked at you and said, this is an all day Aruba guy. I'm going to be okay with the shower head. And then all of a sudden Tommy sees back looking for a shower.
Then I talked to some of the other guests that were in my wing, and they said that the same thing happened. And I don't know. Then I put it out there to my Facebook group, and people were like, "Sounds a little weird." You know what I mean? It sounds like there may be some maybe there might be some intel that some extra sanitization had to happen across the ship because somebody said something about Legionnaire's disease or something like that.
I think we talked about it offline. That is one of the places where I haven't heard of it on a Carnival ship, but the CDC has reported a couple times this year the detection of the Legionella bacteria. And I think there might have been some, I don't know, I don't want to name the wrong cruise line, but it wasn't Carnival for sure. But it's in those shower heads and other places like that where that bacteria thrives. So it could be a precautionary thing, right? Just to keep you safe. But yeah, that would definitely be odd to slide back to your cabin and have no shower head.
Yeah. And the other funny thing, I guess we're into it now. I guess we're complaining now. But the funny thing was I had to go to guest services. Being in my situation, there was absolutely no time to fund my card. So my rule, one of my top 5 rules in cruising is never find yourself in the guest services line on day one.
Not on day one.
This was not avoidable. But I'm in the platinum line, and we're standing there in the platinum line getting lapped by the people in the regular line. So we're like standing there, because anytime there was a problem, there was 2 people on our line and then there was 3 people on the other line. But anytime there was a problem somewhere, somebody had to come off of our line and help other people on the others. So we were basically working off of one person, and we never knew if there would be a right time to jump off our platinum line and go into the regular line. But I stood there trying to catch the sail away. I was there for at least, I would say 45 minutes in line. At the start of the cruise, but I was, I'm just on the ship, Tony. I'm still on a high. I'm like, this is not going to get me down. But again, we're observing. It's just a little weird. Carnival, just want to let you know, on some of your ships, your gold and blue and red card members are lapping and flying by your platinum and diamond members that are standing there being assisted by one person.
That's pretty weird, right? Because I think the standard operating procedure is, somebody's supposed to peel off and help that platinum line if there's more people. That's again, somebody's going to get upset about it because everything should be equal across the board, even though there is a loyalty program that says platinum should get a priority when it comes to customer service. But it seems like again, maybe this is why they're changing the loyalty program, because they're struggling at every area to deliver the promised rewards that they were supposed to give. Because remember, you used to be able to call a special phone number for platinum, and I think they've cut some of that out also. Interesting stuff. If we want to circle back around to food, I think both of us maybe saw the thing today where they're going to, I think on, was it the Liberty or something? They're going to do a new chicken and waffle included food area on the Carnival ship. This is what's interesting. So again, we've talked about other cruise lines going through a bit of a identity crisis or trying to feel their way out in the scenario where, I'm sure they're all being pressured to cut cost. And I think a lot of that's happening in food. I remember on my very first Carnival cruise, I was on the Carnival Fantasy, oldest cruise ship in the fleet, one of the smallest cruise ships in the fleet. And the first time I went to the buffet, I was blown away because you could get prosciutto as much as you wanted on the buffet. And, if you're a fan of prosciutto, you know that that's not an inexpensive meat. It's not like they're throwing some bologna there on the buffet. You're getting some premium Italian meat there. My wife's going to kill me for saying Italian. Some premium Italian meat there. And then the next morning they had smoked salmon on the buffet. And I thought, what kind of magical place is this? You can get the most expensive meats right on the buffet. But all that's long gone. I mean, again, we've gone through the whole vacation thing where you can't even get bacon every day on a Carnival cruise ship. And, I'm never going to not believe that that's not a cost-cutting measure. That one day they're giving you some sad-looking grilled ham, and then the next day you get bacon. And I believe it's 100% a cost measure. But with that being said, they're doing some interesting things to switch it up on the buffet. So they have that bagel station where everything's included, and you get all these fancy kind of bagels, including bagels with lox and cream cheese. And now coming out today, we see this, trying. I think what they're doing is smart. They see how much people like Shaq's Big Chicken. They know how to make a chicken tender. They know how to make a chicken fillet, and they know how to put different toppings on it, and they know how to make waffles. And so they're like, we've got all the ingredients to make a kind of a new pop-up kind of food place, and the bagels went over well. Let's try it with chicken and waffles. And I tell you what, I think my mouth was watering a little bit reading the chicken and waffles menu. I'm ready to see that on a Carnival cruise ship.
So let's. This is super interesting if you're a cruise nerd like us, Tony, because this when I saw what ships this was going to happen on, you realize what the area is, right? So you used to go, maybe let's back up, maybe like pre-Guy's Burger, pre-Guy's Smokehouse. Yeah, that's what it is, pre-Guy's Smokehouse. A lot of the classes of ships used to have that upstairs area of the buffet where it would kind of be like the rotisserie comfort food area. And it would be like, you'd have a rotisserie chicken, and you get mashed potatoes, gravy, mac and cheese. And it was like, I used to tell people, like, no, people don't really know about this. But along comes Guy Fieri, he puts the burger thing on, and then he puts his famous barbecue spot on. So now you go onto these same ships, and what you're seeing is, now I guess they didn't contract it out with Guy, but I don't know if it was under the table without Guy knowing, or I don't know if it was just like a wink handshake deal where Guy says, yeah, do whatever you want. Even though we don't have the contract on those ships, clearly you know how to make barbecue now, so have at it. Just don't call it Guy's. They used to call it the smokehouse, the barbecue house, right?
Yep.
I don't remember what it was called, but it was actual smoked barbecue. And if my best guess, I would say it's probably the same exact food that's going in that you see on the Vista class, and the class is newer than that. So that's exactly what they're doing. They realized what you just said. They can make some good, good battered fried chicken. They got a good recipe now. They know how to put it together. They're not going to call it Shacks, but they're going to take the knowledge that they got from that and put it in that little upstairs, cute little, quaint little buffet area. I'm with you, Tony. I'm all about it. My mouth is watering too. I can't see how it goes. And it's kind of a trendy, I'm in the hospitality business as well, as you know. And, that's a little bit of a trendy item, brunches and chicken and waffles and that type of thing. So it's a hot item right now. You're seeing a lot of chicken and waffle places open up. So, that's pretty savvy of them to do that.
That's pretty wild. So overall, a great getaway for you. Are you feeling reconnected to the sea? You feeling invigorated? What was the overall? All of the challenges, getting on, getting off, all of that stuff. Where does this rank in your? I mean, it may be too soon, but where does this rank in your cruising history?
Up there, you know what I mean? The top 75. Top. What would you say? It's in the top 25%. I got one more for you, Tony, on this one.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Last day before we get back. It's about an hour before sunrise. I look off to the side of the ship, and I see, I'm like, can't really make out what I'm seeing off into the distance. I get my phone out. I zoom in. I take a picture. Tony, I sent you the picture. Doesn't it look like a submarine?
It looks like a submarine. The video that you sent me, it looks like a submarine. And I don't think that's unusual. I mean, I've heard of subs. Is it in the Miami area? Is that where they have that little?
Well, no, it's right. So I was thinking on the way there, I'm like, wow, we're not necessarily in the best terms with Cuba right now. I mean, you can go either way with the leadership. But while you're going to the ABC Islands, you are hugging the entire length of the Cuban coast.
Yeah.
So I just thought, that's a little, I'm sure it's fine, but it's a little odd. Same thing on the way back. So now you're on the way back, and I look out and I see this flat gray vessel off in the distance that literally has nothing on it. I know we're in the middle of a problem, couple of different conflicts. I know there was a situation. So I type into ChatGPT. They say, no, there's nothing crazy about subs out there. It's probably almost definitely a United States submarine. If you want to give me the details, let me know and I'll give you more information. So I said, it's a gray submarine with white lettering on the side. And they said, okay, well then in that case, it's almost definitely a Russian submarine. If it's United States subs are black, and also to put this in even further perspective, you are seeing something extremely rare. While it's not rare to have submarines in the area, to have one surface that close to your cruise ship is extremely rare. Take pictures, whatever. So I'm like, oh geez. So I'm like, kind of gatekeeping this information because I don't really want to freak people out. You know what I mean?
Maybe you should now though. You got to put that up short form on Always Be Booked or throw it over on throw it over here, man. That's
But I showed one crew. I showed one crew member, one bartender, and he saw it, and I didn't even have to say anything. I showed it to a lot of the guests. because
Yeah.
we're all getting off the ship the next day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I showed the guests. The guests all thought the same exact thing that I thought. And then I showed it to one crew member, and then he looked legitimately worried. He was just
Wow.
like, he was like, oh, do I hope that hopefully? And then we stopped talking about it. I kept drinking throughout the night, hanging out with him. It was when I said goodbye to him, he's like, oh, Tom, it's good to have you all week. Nice to good time. I hope that thing you showed me, I hope that's not something I have to worry about. Tony, I went up to the buffet, midnight buffet. I got my tray of food. I saw 3 security guards sitting there. So I walked over to them. I'm like, fellas, how you doing? How's your night going? They're like, how are you? Can I show you something real quick? I would like to know your thoughts on it. The guy looks at it, zoomed in, looked at it, and he goes, I see exactly why you would think that's a submarine. He goes, but I'm in the Navy in my country. I was in the Navy in my country. It's not a submarine. You see that little bridge there? That tells you all you need to know. It's not a submarine. So then I didn't believe him. I was like, this guy's just trying to calm everything down.
Yeah.
So then I took the picture. I was like, ChatGPT, can I send you a picture of what I'm seeing? So he's like, yes, feel free. I sent the picture, and ChatGPT says, that is in no way, shape, or form a submarine. That is a low-level ocean vessel, maybe a cargo ship. There is an exposed bridge, exactly what the guy said. So, so I made sure I went and showed the guy, I didn't want him worrying and freaking out. So, yeah.
Well, it's
a submarine.
It's a good thing you didn't have the ability to get aggressive with that vessel. So not a sub. Any casino time for you on this cruise?
0 casino time.
0 casino. And what did you do drink package wise? Drink package or no drink package?
So I didn't get the drink package either, and that was it. And I was kind of like, because I know I'm actually friendly. So I had one of the girls who was a bartender on that. She was on one of my episodes, and she did a great job, Naomi. And she first night I drank, and I was like, I'm still thinking about getting the drink package. Night 2, she saw that I had like maybe 4 beers. She goes, Tommy, we're not doing the drink package. We're doing a couple shots and 3 or 4 beers a night, and we're not getting the drink package. That's what we're doing.
Nice. Yeah, look, some people say the drink package is a scam, and I know you've got some experience with this. What's your advice for somebody who says, "Hey, I'm going on a 7-day cruise. Should I get the drink package? When does it make sense?"
It's simple math. Like if I'm going on a group cruise with the crazy crew or friends or whatever, I'm getting the drink package pretty much because, you're going to have some drinks during the day. It's 6 or 7 maybe, I think, is the threshold. I knew I was going to take a couple of days off. So even if I was going to have 7 or 8 drinks in a day, I was going to take 2 or 3 days off. So in that case, I knew it wasn't going to be worthwhile for me to do it. But it's not. When people just say like, the drink package is a scam, it's irresponsible to say that. You just have to have all the information. What do you drink, or how much do you want to drink? You can get, when you get a drink package, think about it. Your $8 Truly beverage counts the same exact as your $14, $15 Grey Goose drink. You know what I mean? So in that case, it makes sense. The answer is, for me, I just, what you have to worry about, and of course, it's become kind of monotonous to say at this point, but a lot of people, including myself, many times get the drink package just because they can turn their brain off when it comes to how much they're spending. And that's fully legitimate. But here's where I was with this one, Tony. I almost did get the drink package. It was going to be about $700. But then I said to myself, the minute you do get the drink package, and this is real, ladies and gentlemen, so understand this, the minute you get that drink package, you are going to try to be holding yourself accountable to getting your money's worth. So
I feel like that's true across the board, right? Like a lot of people I've met, I think 2 things can be true at once, right? It's great to have the drink package so you don't worry about the money you're spending. You're not, transactionally thinking about everything that you do. But I do think it does flip a switch in most people that says, okay, now that I have it, how do I get the most value for it?
Yeah, I wanted to make a thing where, I've been working a lot, we've, doing the thing, the shop, and this was like I wanted to relax and recuperate on this cruise as well. I wanted to get off the ship feeling pretty good. And if I'm getting a drink package and I'm trying to get my money's worth for that, probably going to need another couple of days reentry once I get off the ship too,
Yeah. No, yeah. Tough to come right back to work after the drink package. Well, man, it sounds like a great adventure. And while we were away from each other, I had 3 brand new adventures also. I did the brand new Norwegian Luna cruise ship. I went to the recently revitalized Great Stirrup Cay. Look, I said K. I know I committed to Key, but I was at the christening for the Norwegian Luna, and all the executives there called it Great Stirrup Cay. So now I'm back to being conflicted. The marketers versus the Islanders versus the Red Wings. I don't know. And then the other thing that I did that was brand new is I went on the Brightline. So all of those things are pretty amazing. I don't know if there's anything you're curious about or anything you want to talk about there.
I was glad that you got in a little bit of time. I think it was about an hour, right, before you boarded.
Yeah, I don't know if you're the Brightline.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're like me, but whenever I've not done anything before, I am nervous until I do the thing. And then on top of that, when you take my wife, the lovely Jenny B, she's always got questions. So she knows that I've never been on the Brightline before yet. Because she loves me and she has great faith in me, she expects me to have all the answers, like I'm the Oracle of Delphi. So we're driving over there, and she's like, "Where's exactly the parking lot?" I don't know. I've never been there. All right, well, we're in the parking lot now. Where do we get the shuttle? I just don't know. We've never been there. But how do we get to the terminal? So in addition to being like uptight about something I've never done before, which is just the way that I'm wired, we had a whole lot of that. It was beautiful. I tell you what, we drove over. When we talked last, I told you that we had booked an early train, which meant we were going to have to leave Spring Hill like at 5 a.m. As time grew near, we realized that you could really easily change the train that you were on. So we changed and decided to go on a 1 p.m. train instead of like a 9 a.m. train. So we left our house about 10 o'clock. We drove the hour and a half over to Wally Park, which is near the Orlando airport. The Brightline terminal's basically in the Orlando airport. Took a little shuttle over there. It took us about 20 minutes to get from the Wally Park to the Brightline. And then we checked in, and we had like an hour and a half, really, before our train. And that lounge experience is nice. Like they had, I'm never one to wish I had a Ziploc bag, but they had like Lindor truffles there, those candies. They had full jars of trail mix, and all you really needed was a container, and you could have just taken as much of that as you wanted. But I restrained myself. But they had pasta and meatballs, they had beer, they had wine, they had soda, they had coffee, they had juice, snacks galore, comfortable seating, Wi-Fi, power. I was like, man, this is the best thing ever. So yeah, we were there for about an hour and a half in the premium lounge, and then we boarded the train, and the premium section was nice. As soon as we sat down in the seats, there was an attendant there. Would you like something to drink? Would you like some snacks? We got underway. They fed us lunch, and the whole way down, it was just service on top of service. We booked the seats where we were at one of those tables. They have they have like regular seats that are side by side. In the premium car, they have like one seat on one side, then an aisle, and then 2 seats. But then every once in a while, they would have this table section where on the single side, you would have 2 single seats facing each other with a table in between. And then on the larger side, they would have, a table of 4. And so when we booked the new time, there was one table of 4 that nobody had booked yet. So we sat side by side, and we knew at some point maybe somebody would be seated next to us. But for most of that train ride, we were there by ourselves, and it was so comfortable. And, we got on the iPads, and we got on the computer. It was amazing. This is, as stressed sometimes as I am driving down into the heart of Miami and trying to park and get through the traffic. This was amazing. It was so easy. We finally get to Miami. Well, I think it might have been West Palm. We picked up a family. This is my only beef. So they have an announcement on the train that if you're going to have any phone conversations, to take it outside, to take it in the little hallway. If you're going to listen to your iPad or your laptop, put in some headphones, that kind of thing. Well, there was a family that got on, and I don't know what the guy did for a living, but he was important. I know that for sure, by the way that the wife and the daughter was. And they got on the train, and apparently they had booked the wrong tickets, and they would be riding backwards. So they were the other 2 people that were the wife and the daughter were going to be the other 2 people at our foretop, and then the husband was going to be sitting across from us at the single seat. and she was not happy. She was glaring at everybody that, you know, she wanted seats where they could face forward. Maybe there was some motion sickness, all that stuff. I was very empathetic to that part of it, but she was just miserable. She was miserable to the attendant. She was glaring at people like, you know, you should move so I could have my seat. And then, you know, once the wife and the daughter sat down, the guy sat down and conducted a full business meeting for about 3 stops on there. He's talking to some guy about AI and how it's going to change their business. And he was so loud. And I was like, this is the rudest thing. I should have said something. Like, I was very clear. I'm like, I just don't, you know, I never want to get in a fight with anybody. You never know who's going to be crazy. But it's just in my mind, I'm like, what is wrong with people? You know, I'm looking at him at one point, and I just wanted, you know, in my own smart alecky way, I just wanted to be like, oh, I think that's a bad strategy, Steve. Like, you know, I think, I don't think that's going to work for your business at all. I don't have all the particulars, but I have a lot of them because you've been talking on the phone for 35 minutes. But they finally got off the train, but everything was so pleasant and fun, and that was just a miserable set of people. But I love the fact that the Brightline drops off right kind of in the heart of downtown, and we were there for an event, and the Norwegian Cruise Line had booked the Gale Hotel, which is hard to say, but it was not only hotel, but it's also a residential condo, so it's one of those high-rises. It was 2 blocks from the Brightline station, which was amazing. And then a very nice hotel. And then the other thing that's cool about Brightline, based on like Google to Terminal B, it's only 2 miles. So this is my new recommendation. It's a little pricey. That's what, you know, I did a little evaluation of it. You can definitely drive down to Miami. You could possibly fly down to Miami from Tampa for less money than the premium. But if you can do the economy, and I think you got to pay a little bit for your bag, I think that's a great way to get to a cruise. I've got to go. I'm going to Miami at the end of this month, and I'm either going to take the Amtrak from Tampa. I've done that before in like a roomette or something like that, or I'm going to try to figure out how to get to Orlando and take the train down again. It was fantastic. I mean, it was such a great experience, and then the way back was also amazing. We got lucky though. We disembarked the Norwegian Luna. We got off that ship pretty early, like 6 or 7 in the morning. Took an Uber over to the Brightline, and we had to wait about an hour and a half in the lounge there in Miami. But just shortly after we got off the Luna, something happened to the cell phone signal in the terminal area, and there were people that couldn't get a ride. The people like our friend Sherry from Cruise Tips TV, she was posting that, hey, I'm standing here for 2 hours, my cell phone doesn't work, I can't get a ride.
Have you ever seen Sherry? Have you ever seen Sherry lose it on somebody?
No, I don't think I've ever seen her lose it on
Sherry.
somebody.
When Sherry loses it, she goes, "Do you know who you're talking to right now?"
You know
I've seen her. She lashes out, and then people, you know, I'm just kidding. Sherry's the sweetest person in the world.
I was going to say, I can't imagine.
Shout out to the lovely Jenny B, and shout out to my Long Island friends out there, because your buddy on this little train here, he would have had himself a little bit of a problem if he tried this on the Long Island Railroad.
The LEI or whatever.
Yeah, the LIRR. If people are sitting there, Tony, they're waiting for somebody to get on their phone so they can climb over the seat and just get all in their face. This is not. You know how many times I take one call? Yeah. Just put it there. Yeah, just deposit it. Yeah, no problem. It's not your office. Not your office. They're wanting for that. They're waiting for that to happen. So yeah, this guy was good. I loved your recap of the whole thing. I saw the vlog and everything. I'll say the one thing that a little disappointed me a little bit was that I didn't realize, and it's like a convenience thing, but then it becomes not convenient because it's clearly for convenience, high-speed rail, this and that, and then it gets more convenient because there's more places to get it and there's more access points, which means more stops, which means somewhere where you can drive a couple hours. I didn't realize it took almost 6 hours to do.
So I did have to put a qualifier on that. I think I was wrong on the time. I went back and looked at the posted. Okay. Yeah, I looked at the posted thing on Brightline. It says the trip from Orlando to Miami is 3.5 hours. So I think maybe I was taking into account
that's great.
The drive over. Yeah. So anybody that I've led astray there, 3.5 hours. So yeah, that was a big miss. Yeah, I did make that recap, and I thought I did pretty good. Like I thought I was fairly accurate. And then the funny thing sometimes when you make these videos, you know, honestly, I just wanted to tell people how much it cost, and you know, people can make their own determination. But I did have a couple of people like, "Oh, you didn't calculate in the tolls," and I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't calculate in the tolls. I didn't think about that." So
they're all over it.
But it was a great experience, and I think you got to do the math on it, but it's so less. It's almost like the drink package. Your stress level is so low on that train opposed to driving in the car and trying to. It's a boring drive from Tampa to Miami. I'll tell you what, especially, and we've been doing it on the day of the cruise. So 5, 6 in the morning, you're just driving down there. It's like, save me, please.
I don't know if you saw my post, but if you did, pretend you didn't. Let's do a guessing game.
Okay.
8 days, Miami. How much do you think I paid for parking?
You parked at the port, right?
Yeah.
You parked at the Carnival port. I just looked at it the other day. Isn't it $25 a day? So 8 of those is what, $200, right?
I'm not parking at the port anymore, and they $200 to park
It's
your car.
expensive. It's expensive. I mean, and that's a great question, because I mentioned that in that Miami the Brightline video, that I like to park at the port, and people are like, that's insane. You can park for $10 other places, but then you got to wait on the shuttle. I mean, I don't know if it's worth an extra $100.
Now it is. For me, it is now. I mean, 200 is crazy.
Yeah.
And the internet it was over 200, like 210 for the internet now too. It was like,
all this is a lot more expensive than your cruise. Yeah.
Way more, way more. And, I was always the guy that just park at the port, an extra 100, 140, even if it gets up to $140, whatever.
Yeah.
It's still just a high level of convenience. But yeah, I know 8 days is a long cruise, but that's $200 to park your car, in any situation is kind of crazy.
And what's wild is I think I was on the Port Miami site yesterday. I think up at the Norwegian terminal, it's $35 a day. It's too much. Now
another piece, I guess that was in the news too, right? They're looking for you to make reservations for the Norwegian parking. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't see that. That's pretty wild. How about that?
I think that's I mean, they're not necessarily saying that you can't. You have to make reservations, but the reservations are going to be first come, first serve. Obviously, if you get the reservation, you got a spot. If they run out of reservations, well, you didn't make a reservation at the cruise port. It's crazy.
Man, I tell you what, so on that Luna, we were able to watch the christening ceremony, and this is something that I've never done before. So we were worried about traffic on the day that we embarked the Luna. And so we stayed the night at that Gale Hotel, and I went over to the cruise terminal about 9:30. We got an Uber. Jenny B and I went over there. They were not ready for us, so we were able to stand in line probably for like 2 hours before we were able to get in. But we got checked in, and as we went into that big, beautiful terminal that Norwegian has, they had a full stage set up for the christening. And so what they did is they closed embarkation at 2:30. Everybody that was in the terminal went on to the cruise ship, but then they called us back out at 3:30 for the christening. So I've never had that scenario. Didn't even have to scan off. It was almost like the cruise, because they shut down the cruise terminal, the access to the cruise terminal after they checked everybody in, it was almost like it became an extension of the cruise ship for the christening. So you just kind of went back. Yeah, it was such a wild scenario to go past security, down a gangway, back into the terminal. We did the whole christening ceremony, and then we went back onto the cruise ship, and you didn't have to scan anything. It was bizarre.
That's insane. But in general, so the ship, I mean, it just, what I always hear about these ships, this class is like, it's like a space age next level. You're talking about a higher level of class, or like high level of sophistication, fanciness, whatever word you want to use. Is it really that on that level on this class of ships, especially the Luna?
It's super modern, right? And I think some people love that and some people don't love it. Again, it really has a lot of small venues that are trying to supply you with niche experiences. It's the weirdest layout though, because they do have, you walk onto the cruise ship and they do have an atrium type area, just a small area where you can look up and see the multiple decks above you. There's a seating area, there's a bar there called the Primrose Bar, and then immediately that is all casino. It's an open layout casino. So as soon as you walk in on the main action deck, on deck 5, I believe it is, there's the craps table. I mean, you're in the casino. And then they kind of stretch it all the way down the corridor. They have a smoking casino in a box, but the whole basic bottom, main deck is a casino, and that's an interesting layout that I hadn't seen before. And then, of course, as you go up, they have seating areas and bars and all that kind of stuff. The one thing that we did do is that new controversial Lunatique, the $45 circus show that they have in the comedy club. It was
we spoke about that.
Yeah, it was racy, dude. So it was racy for the sake of being racy, right? So it was like what kind of tropes can we, what kind of somewhat sexual tropes, somewhat dirty talk tropes, somewhat swear word tropes. It was all about getting 4 craft cocktails that had some pretty wild names, and then having like a wild kind of freak show. It was good. Again, I think it's important that they charge for it, because if this was a free show, there would be people down at guest services complaining that it was too obscene. This is too vulgar. This is annoyed my sensibilities. Plus, you are getting 4 of those. Again, you can't get those drinks anywhere else. So you can't. It's not like, even if you have the drink package, you're not going to be able to go order. I think one of them was called like D's Nuts or something like that. You're not going to be able to order that drink anywhere else. So I can see why they're selling the show for $45, and it was packed.
Can I ask you, Tony, what's the barrier to entry as far as that? Because I can tell you right now, we know about the Quest, we know about Virgin Voyages calming down the sexuality, and that's based on people getting on cruise ships and not being ready for the level. Have you ever been to some of these Carnival Quests where they spend about 15 minutes trying to disclaim the whole sexuality or sexual content thing? There's going to be complaints. That's what I wanted to ask you. Was there a lot of that, a lot of disclaiming going on? If you've ever been offended by anything, this is not the place, because they're gonna run into that as an issue.
I feel like there was some sort of disclaimer at the front end, and I'm pretty sure, like, when they sell it to you, they give you a pretty hard disclaimer, like, this is adult oriented, that you could be offended. And then I think the very first person who was like kind of the master of ceremonies, I think she was pretty much saying this could be offensive to some people. But there was also some audience participation. Jenny B and I got called on, and then there was one guy that was picked on during the whole show. So it's definitely not going to be everybody's scene, but we had a really good time. We saw 3 shows on the Luna. Saw the brand new Elton show in the main theater, which was good. I liked it. Again, I like I like a Broadway show. I like a show that has a narrative. I like something that starts and has a middle and ends, and it has song and dance. That is probably my favorite type of thing. Again, the Elton show was just a lot of great Elton John songs and costumes, and it was wonderfully produced. Then I saw the Lunatique show in the comedy club, and then we saw Heiko, which is kind of a modern dance. Again, there was no narrative. It was just a modern dance and acrobats. So you can tell they put some effort into the production shows there, but it's definitely a departure from, say, like the Footloose or the Broadway shows or something like that. And I'm still, if I had my druthers, if I had my pick, I would take Acquire a Man over Heiko. But, it is what it is, I guess. But I tell you what, I love the theater because they've got, regular, auditorium style seats on one deck, and then they've got all bench seats on the deck up. So I love the fact that they're accommodating people that don't necessarily want to sit in the auditorium style seats. So a great ship. I do like the layout. They had a lot of great seating, a lot of good food options. And I would like to go back and spend more than 3 days on it. But the big highlight for me was going to Great Stirrup Cay. Of course, they've been touting this new pier there, and they've been touting the new lagoon, the new pool there. And then we got a special treat. We got to actually tour the construction zone for the new water park, and we got to see the drawings, the renderings, and we got to talk to the people that are there building it. And I just want to say this: they're going to take a run at Coco Cay. They're building a taller water slide. There's going to be cliff jumping there, Tommy, like they're building cliffs that 10 and 15 foot cliffs that people can jump off of. They're going to have a dynamic river, so like a lazy river with a little more speed to it. The lagoon there,
A hardworking river.
a hard-working river. The lagoon there, the big pool there was amazing. They had a DJ out there. They had somebody doing like fun stuff with people in the pool, and the pier is under construction. So the pier that we were on was next to the wooden pier. I told you I'd seen some images of this wooden pier. It looked a little scary, but they had a concrete pier for us. But I think we were the last cruise ship that got to use it, because the very next cruise they were tendering. What I didn't know is our friend Don Terrace. I didn't know that he came down to Miami. I was hoping if he would have told me, I would have stayed down there and gone on another Luna cruise. But I think he was on the next one or the one after that, and they were back to a tender service, and they had to miss Great Stirrup Cay because of weather. So you got to go, man, because I think once that's done, they're supposed to have that water park done summer. We couldn't get an exact date. But once that's done, it's going to be interesting to see those two private islands next to each other going head to head.
I was interested before when you said, the minute you got on the ship, you were kind of greeted with a craps table, and a lot of casino action was kind of happening. It was very casino forward. I don't know. And I always think, I always say these cruise lines, it's a little bit of a copycat league. They kind of go in trends and stuff like that. And, you hear all about that, what you just said. Is there any tie-in, you think? Because you're hearing about Royal Caribbean actually changing some venues to actually be more casino venues. And then you hear the Carnival sailings, which I think you announced that you booked one, right? An 11-nighter, and the sea cruises, the sailing exclusively for adults. And we know about the cost cutting, we know about the money making, we know about this. Do you think this is all part of the kind of lean in towards the casino? Are they realizing a lot of money from the casino lately that they hadn't before? Because it seems like everybody's leaning into the gambling thing.
I don't think this is what I think that we're seeing as a trend. And for years, if you followed some of the statements of people like John Heald and other public facing people of these cruise lines, they're pretty open about the fact that the casino is a huge profit center for them. And so if you think about it, if you know that if you have X amount of gaming machines or tables, you're going to make X amount of profit, then one of the easiest levers to pull is to do more of it, right? If you're already, if you know that if you sell 40 sandwiches at the chop shop, you're going to make X amount of profit. Well, if you could sell 80, then you're going to double your profit. So, it's interesting. I can't remember what cruise ship. I've seen some pictures over the last few days where they had like one of those classic Carnival atriums that have the atrium bar, the elevators from floor to ceiling under the glass sky, and the whole atrium's filled with the slot machines. They're just now taking them down from these sea cruises. And so I think it's an easy thing. Like you said, charge them for chicken wings or giving a $5 extra pizza that you can buy. I think they realize that, okay, there is money to be made and people will spend this money. And I certainly think that, more casino is part of the way. The other big win on that Luna is they had a Texas Hold'em table that had a dealer, which a lot of people are looking for that. Not all cruise ships have that. But yeah, it wasn't shocking to me to see how front and center the casino was. And to your point, we Jenny B, she kind of had the epiphany that I forgave Carnival because they removed that fee. And I'd said in the beginning, some people are like, oh, you said you'd never cruise Carnival again. I never said that. And I was just looking, picking and choosing for when I could go back. And so Jenny said, hey man, we got this offer that 11 days ABC Island, and it's like $18 a day. Now we ended up having to add on like taxes and gratuities and all that kind of stuff. But I think all in all, for two of us, I think we ended up in a balcony for 11 days for $900.
Yeah, not too shabby.
With a drink package everywhere, drinks everywhere. $200 each, free play and drinks everywhere for two people. So
that is amazing.
That's amazing. That's later on this year, though. That's going to be toward the end of the year. So I'll be making a return and I think that's I think it's on the Conquest. Maybe I've never been on the Conquest, so I'm excited to. I love we talk about being ship spotters and ship nerds and all that, and some people are like, oh yeah, how can you go on this cruise line or that cruise line? You put me on a cruise ship I've never been on before, I'm happy, dude. Like, I'm excited. I love to, like, okay, what's this look like? Let me film this. I'm so excited. So this is going to be a great situation. I've never been to Bonaire, so I'll get to go to Bonaire on that cruise, and I've never been on that ship, so it's a double whammy, and it's super inexpensive. So I'm very excited about it.
Rounding out Luna, so I guess two more questions I have. I'd like to kind of get your overall, I guess, thoughts about the food, and then B, Norwegian's Breakaway and Breakaway Plus class ships took a little bit of heat based on, I guess, there not being as much room up top on the pool deck as people sometimes like to have. So how was the food, A, and do you think there was a correction with the available of sun space for people?
So, I don't know. I think the food was good. Now, they only have, this is an interesting thing, and I can't get anybody to agree with me, but I guess I'll make the case for it again. They have the indulged food hall, which is one way to get people away from the buffet. And so basically for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can go in there. I don't know if they have dinner. Breakfast, maybe they may have dinner, but you go in there and basically there's all these different food stalls, and you use a touch screen to pick food, and then as your food's ready, a server brings it to your table. It was great. The food's really good there. They also have the local, which is, I don't think it's 24 hours anymore, Tommy, to be honest, but that's always, that's the stalwart Norwegian cruise line included food, pub food. They've got that, and this is back in the same section, and then you got to go up a few decks, and the buffet's there. But what's interesting is they have not committed a full deck to the buffet. So most other cruise lines have buffet on one side of the cruise ship and then buffet on the other side of the cruise ship on the same deck. But what's true, and tell me if I'm wrong, most of the time both of those sides are not operating at the same time. And so what Norwegian does is they just have a buffet line on one side of the cruise ship that operates all the time. So to me, it's the same thing, but people don't like to think that. And they do something smart, multi-use. On the other side of the buffet, they have two of their specialty restaurants, Palomar and Sukhothai. Both of those have a decent amount of seating, so they provide overflow seating for the buffet in Sukhothai and Palomar during breakfast and lunch. And you go sit over there. You go sit, a lot of times it's easy to go get a great seat over there. So I kind of like the food there. I did Sukhothai for the specialty restaurant. I ate the buffet. I think I went to main dining room one night. The food wasn't bad at all. I mean, it's as good as it normally is on Norwegian Cruise Line. Again, I'm trying to think who I think's got the best elevated food. Virgin Voyage is certainly up there for elevated food. I think that Princess and Celebrity do fantastic on the buffet and on the main dining room, and especially really for Princess. But I've never really blown away by cruise food, anyways. So it's but I did like the food that they had on the Luna.
It sounds like what you say as far as like what the theme of the overall ship is, and I do see both sides of it, because I love the fact that what you say, it's an interesting thing that they're doing, where they're doing a little bit smaller venues around everything, and you kind of got to pick and choose your experience, and you'll do this one night, but then there won't be enough room for you to do it, so you got to do it another night. It seems like that's a little bit of the same thing when they go with the food with the buffet. If you don't get to the buffet, go to the food hall. It sounds like they're being pretty consistent with that. I understand that, but then I also understand the person that, I cruise because I want to be able to go where I want to go and do what I want to do when I want to do it. So I do understand both sides. You know what I mean?
I think this is their biggest challenge for that Prima and Prima Plus class. And I always use the Rumor Show as an example. They did this wonderful Fleetwood Mac Rumor Show, and it started out in the Sid Norman Poorhouse, and the venue is just too small. The show is so popular and the venue is so small that eventually they moved it to the big theater so that more people could see it. What you said is 100% correct. You are going to have to make some choices there because you're not going to be able to do everything because of the limitation of the size. But the weird thing is they want it that way. So I don't know if that's going to be a strategy that works well for them or doesn't work well for them. But for the hardcore cruiser that says, I don't want to have to jump through these hoops and go through this rigmarole, it's not going to be good for them, 100%. And then to your second question, yeah, since there's no longer the go-karts on these ships anymore, and we do have the aqua slide coaster. I remember, I can't remember which ship I was on. I think it was the Breakaway or something like that. I went up on the pool deck, and it almost like the sun almost couldn't penetrate everything that was going on the top deck.
Yeah.
And this is not like that. This is very nice. They have a really nice big open pool deck with a kind of a multi-tiered pool. They've got a lot of great like hot tubs on the sides of like deck 8. They've got infinity pools, and they've got loungers that are kind of set down in the water. So they have multiple levels of being able to experience this. And then on the aft of the ship, they've got I think it's the aft, maybe all the way forward, the Vibe Beach Club, which we were able to take a peek in there. A beautiful place. They also had a wonderful thermal spa. So there's some really nice spaces on that cruise ship. But to your point, you're going to have to make some decisions because I think the outdoor spaces, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of outdoor space, but some of those venues at night are a little small.
No, it sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. It sounds like a great ship. And, I'm always a big fan, whether it's Virgin Voyages, Margaritaville at Sea, people who are outliers. You know what I mean? They're going to do something a little bit different. They're going to zig when other cruise lines are zagging. Now, does that work? Because I'm not going to be Johnny Segway here, but we do talk about Norwegian and their business decisions fairly regularly. And it seems like, I don't know if it was because of the pressure from the Elliott Group, or if it was the new CEO that they have, or whoever was behind this one. But they're doing this. They're building a lot on Coco Cay. They're putting these brand new modern ships together, but they're going to cut payroll 20%, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the thing, and they're going right at the top level. We've talked about it a little bit. A lot of times those executive salaries get inflated, right? People maybe have a long tenure. I think that's why you see a lot of kind of C-level and high-level executives switching around, because you really do start to look at those numbers. If somebody's put a lot of time in at a company and they've inflated their salary up, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can get a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed college graduate to do the same job for less money, that's when the cuts start happening. And it's really a challenge for people that have been in a position.
Robot.
Or a robot, absolutely. And again, I guess I don't know. We see it happening all over the place. I don't want to be too much. I was almost like for the people. It's like, yeah, if you're gonna make my cruise more expensive, yeah, somebody better be getting fired. You better be cutting some salary somewhere. Yeah. I guess that's a little too hardcore, or maybe it's not. Quit cutting my cruise experience and trim the fat inside your organization. I think that's what we're seeing. I really do hate for anybody to lose a job. I'm not celebrating anybody losing a job, but that's what happens, especially after change in leadership. Especially like you said, you've got this advocacy group or this, I don't know if they're hostile or whatever, coming in saying you guys aren't doing business the right way, and now we own a lot of the company. The 20%, and they say it's primarily aimed at the executive level, which is the senior management level, which is a wild thing. But it seems like in the cruise industry, you know more names than I do, but this person maybe used to be at Holland, now they're over here or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see where these people end up.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. You think about who they hired, and they hired a guy who is not necessarily knee deep with decades of cruise experience. He's in fast casual food. So if you're going to make a move like that, it's not because you hired some guy that's going to revolutionize the cruise experience. You hired him because he's probably knows how to save some money, is probably what the thing is.
I mean, the restaurant business, and I worked fast food for a long time, and I was just a young kid, but I'm always fascinated with how an organization runs. So even when I was 18, 19 years old, just as some like assistant manager or something, I'm trying to learn about food cost and all that stuff. And what I understand, or what was true back in the 80s, is that those margins on fast food very thin. And so the way that you squeeze out a better profitability is to be good with cost cutting and those kind of things. But yeah, it was interesting. He was at the christening, and it took everything. I mean, I'm kind of wired to be a contrarian. I'm a little wired to be a smart aleck, that kind of thing. And we kept going through executive after executive, and but I was an invited guest, so I didn't want to act out too much. But I just wanted to stand up and be like, "Where's the Burger King guy? Could you bring the Burger King guy out? I want to have it my way."
Well,
yeah,
I said it for years. Norwegian, everybody's doing a burger. Norwegians, maybe they're going to finally do a burger. But to what you said before about where they're making these cuts, and they're at the corporate level, and they're at the VP level and stuff like that. And I listened to a guy, a comedian, Tim Dillon, and he's always providing social and political commentary. And he just joked about it. He's like, that's a trend that's going on across the country now, is that these high level executives are being cut. And people are saying, first it was like, oh, it's all AI is coming in, but then I guess the companies are starting to downplay that a little bit, because that's not the coolest thing to say, is that we'll get a bunch of robots replacing humans. So they're changing that. They're changing that narrative. But his joke was that there's going to be nothing more dangerous. You see these people who are homeless, the crime and this and that you see in the streets right now. There's going to be nothing more dangerous than the CEO who's roaming the streets looking for food, and they're going to be it's going to be rough out there when you get CEO zombies looking for
That's interesting. Did you ever watch Mad Men back in the day, or do you know who John Hamm is?
So I skimmed it. I never was really a huge Mad Men guy, but I liked it. I just never really stuck.
So the actor John Hamm, it's been fun to watch. Of course, he got famous playing Don Draper on Mad Men, but he's in a show right now on Apple TV, and the second season just launched. I don't even remember what the name of it is, but the premise is high-power guy who made a lot of money loses his job, and then he realizes that all of his rich friends have valuables that he can steal, so he becomes a thief. And then mayhem ensues. It was a really great first season with a lot of twists and turns, and but now the second season's out. But it's almost exactly what Tim Dillon's describing there. That all of a sudden these people that life is funny like that, and not to get too philosophical, but you kind of learn over time that the way your life is, it can go two ways. You can either have a lot of things which will require you to make a lot of money, or you can not need as much money. And whatever that nut is, whatever you need to make kind of dictates how stressful your life is. So if you think about it as an executive who's probably had a good salary and made that salary, go a lot of places and buy a lot of things and leverage a lot of things, all of a sudden, if you're trying to replace that kind of salary because you have to, that's a desperate situation. So it's, I think the sweet spot, and I'm not great at it, but I think the sweet spot is if you could make a lot of money but not need a lot of money. At least that's what I'm trying to tell my kids. I'm like, Daddy ain't there yet, but figure out a way in your life to make a lot of money but not need a lot of money. I think that's the sweet spot.
Replace your expectation with appreciation.
Absolutely. Well, Tommy, man, we basically covered our two cruises. There's a lot going on in cruising, but I think we might have to save that for the next one, man. My appreciation is for you and the fact that you were able to do that cruise. I was so excited.
Likewise, I definitely felt that from you, that you were genuinely happy that I was able to make it on that sailing. And they're a little bit fewer and far between right now, but hopefully not too long. We got a few we got a few plans in play for the chop shop. We're gonna be able to be freed up a little bit, but it was great hearing about the Luna, and always great talking to you, Tony.
Can I plug something?
Please.
So back in 2018, the lovely Jenny B and myself, we established a tradition that ran for 5 years, only interrupted by COVID, and that's the La Lita Loca Halloween group cruise. And well, it's coming back. It's coming back. We made a big announcement last night that in 2027, there will once again be a La Lita Loca Halloween group cruise, this time on the brand new Star Princess, October the 31st through November the 7th. And so if you've ever wanted to cruise on a group with La Lita Loca and me and Jenny B, the opportunity is nigh, and you got a whole year and a half to pay for it. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And then I guess another thing, we made the change. So we changed the YouTube channel. We changed our name from Cruise Talk Weekly to Cruise Talk with Tommy and Tony. And you can find us on the social media platforms now. We are on Instagram, we are on TikTok, we are on Facebook, and you can find us at the username Cruise Talk TNT. And we're going to start posting some short form content. This show's still going to be what it is. It's going to be Cruise Talk Weekly, where we try to get together every week and talk about cruising. But that's now going to be under the banner of Cruise Talk with Tommy and Tony. And we had our friend Chat GTP polish up our logo, and I think it looks dang sexy.
I think we fired a CEO, right? And then we just had Chat GPT do it.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. We were going to get a graphic designer, but we did the Chat GTP. So pretty cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody for stopping by. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe for more. And if you're out there listening to us on audio, I hope your ears are doing good. If you get a chance, give us a review over there on Apple. And make sure if you want more of Tommy, you can go check out the Always Be Booked Cruising podcast. You kind of have like the regular show out there on the Spotify and the Apple and all of that. But for not much coin, people can join your Patreon, and it really gets spicy.
Yeah, it gets a little low. I overshare on that thing, and it's a little crazy.
That might be my favorite Tommy. Overshare Tommy might be my favorite Tommy. So go check out the Always Be Booked Cruising podcast, both on the regular places and also on Patreon.
Yep. Yeah. Another great week. Another fun time talking to you, Tony. Hopefully, the thing is, when you cruise, I cruise. We do miss, and we appreciate everybody's patience and kind of, bearing with us through that, because I was happy to hear in your live yesterday, a couple of people did ask, hey, when's the next cruise talk coming? And that was cool. But we're going to keep this train moving.
That's right. Yeah. I think the best times for us is when we're traveling. And so it is cool to come back and recap these adventures. So we'll keep doing it. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I'm Tony.
And I'm Tommy.
This is Cruise Talk Weekly, and we'll see you on the next one.
And it's a winning, never to lose. When we talk about vacation, though, it's always a cruise. It's Tony and Tommy with a TNT schmooze. Cruise Talk Weekly, and we lighten the fuse.